You already know Toyota's GR Yaris to be the car of the moment, possibly even the best car of 2020, but the one everyone's talking about is the circuit pack machine. The car we have here, however, is the convenience pack car, which means it's more road biased in its setup. It doesn't get the two limited slip differentials that the circuit pack car does. This car makes do with a central diff that you get across all the GR Yarises. Does that make it less of a driver's machine on slippery autumnal British B roads? Or, in fact, does the lower entry price of this car make it the better value machine, the one that actually is the one we would all buy if we're going to be subjecting it to road use? That's exactly what we're about to find out. The main features that are missing from this convenience pack car obviously are underneath. Inside, you get more, so you actually get a larger infotainment screen. The infotainment system in this car is actually pretty good. It's intuitive and very functional, but nobody buys a Gazoo racing Yaris for an infotainment screen, do they? They buy it because they want to drive the car on its limit, probably absolutely everywhere, which is why we've ordered some slippery conditions for an autumnal day to just investigate how the four-wheel drive system without the two limited slip differentials, the Torsen locking diffs you get on the circuit pack car, how not having those on this convenience pack car affects performance.
Of course, there's more missing from this non-circuit pack car than just a pair of Torsen locking diffs. The £29,995 entry machine doesn't get the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tyres or the lightweight forged BBS alloys of the 3.5 grand pricier variant. But don't forget, even in its most basic form, the GR Yaris sits on a bespoke platform, made from a mix of regular Yaris front end and a CHR rear to create what is a homologated structure which Toyota uses in the WRC. It's a proper job, emphasised by the car's squat, wheels out stance, and the way this thing goes around corners.
First things first though, the engine. It's a 1.6 litre 3-cylinder with 261 horsepower. And my God, it does pull really hard. This car isn't particularly heavy by modern day standards, but it is a 3-cylinder engine. It's the most powerful 3-cylinder engine in production. And you really do feel that. It sounds really good. It's sort of the blast furnace with every full throttle application, which makes it really addictive to revving the motor out so the back pressure builds up enough so you get that tone to go with the throaty, quite coarse 3-cylinder noise from up front. There is definitely some resistance from the speakers, but it's not the dominating part of the orchestra you're given. It's there. I don't think it's necessary at all because I think the engine sounds great, but that's the world we live in these days. Sound systems do synthesize engine power. And the gearbox, it's loosened off. When we got this car, it came on delivery miles. Now it's 784 miles. It's loosened off. It's a really slick 6-speed, nice and positive through the gate. The clutch pedal weighting's really good. The pedals are nicely positioned. The steering weight is really good. There's not any feel around the center, but once you load up the car, there's communication, especially through the front axle. You can feel when those tires are starting to roll over onto their edges. There's a lot of texture that comes through the wheel. And these corners we're about to approach now, it's just going to clear some space. This is where you get to feel the diff. We've got it now in sport mode and ESP off. You can just starts to rotate on you. Little bit of rotation, but the front end always remains the dominant factor in your direction. You don't push when you start to reach the limit of the tires. The front is almost kind of always going to have more than the rear, even in these slippery conditions. We're able to just really hammer into a bend and then just ask the rear to give you the rotation. And it does that like a traditional hot hatch, but then you have the traction to drive you out. I've caught up with the car now, so we're gonna have to get a gap.
Like the circuit pack car then, this entry point model retains all the GR Yaris best bits, headed by a responsive front end and the agility enabled by its short wheelbase. It's clear that these defining qualities are ensured by the Gazoo racing base in all specifications, especially in dry weather on the road, when you're never left wanting for a different torque split on either axle. On greasy roads, however, where the limits are lower, the situation is different.
But am I missing those two locking differentials? This is the best corner I've found today to test that. Oh, it just starts to push with a bit of understeer. I can certainly see where those two locking diffs would make a difference, certainly over the front axle. That corner there is a really nice section where you can get the car chucked in, and where the Yaris excels is when you get it rotated on entry and allow the car to drift and get back on the throttle. You can start to feel the front just struggling to put the power down on exit, and there's a tiny bit of push. If you get it lobbed in on the crest of that corner, the car turns in really sweetly. But then just as you get back on the power, it's not able to continue the momentum of that drift in a way that I reckon the circuit pack car would allow you to do. And circuit packed cars in sport mode, I imagine, would be especially leery and especially fun on the limit when you're able to dance between corners and really make the most of the brilliant neutral balance of this chassis.
So that's a brief overview of the differences between the circuit pack chassis and the base platform. The short answer is as expected. Those wanting the most agile, rounded GR Yaris ought to tick the circuit pack box, but those not able to stretch beyond £30,000 will certainly not be disappointed. The Yaris is a tremendous new offering to the hot hatch segment. For more on what we think of Gazoo Racing's latest machine, you can find reviews for both this entry car and the circuit pack model on PistonHeads.com. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. See you soon.